Welcome back, NBA fans, to another episode of OTN, the show where we dive deep into the biggest headlines and the juiciest whispers from around the league. I'm Daniel, and with me, as always, is my go-to guy for all things hoops, Terrell. Terrell, how's it going, man?
Feeling good, Dan. Thanks for having me. The preseason buzz is building, and you know what that means. A whole lot of speculation and a whole lot of front office chess moves. It's what makes this game so great.
Exactly. And speaking of front office chess, our topic today is a big one. It's a long-term play, but it has massive implications. We're talking about the Golden State Warriors and their very deliberate, very strategic plans for the 2027 NBA free agency.
Oh yeah, this is a fun one. The Warriors are not just playing for the next season, they're playing for the next era. And the moves they're making right now, they're all with that summer in mind. It's a calculated risk, but man, if it pays off, it could be absolutely historic.
Let's break it down. So the Warriors are laser focused on financial flexibility. They're doing some serious cap management. Can you walk me through what that looks like on their books for 2027?
Absolutely. So for the 2027 offseason, their books are incredibly clean. As of now, they only have two contracts to worry about. Moses Moody's $13.4 million and Buddy Hield's $10 million player option. That's it. Think about that for a second. A team with that kind of history, that kind of success, is going to have a practically blank slate in 3 years. That's just a phenomenal position to be in. It gives them the freedom to go after some of the biggest names in the game without being bogged down by a massive payroll.
And this is where it gets really interesting. This push for flexibility is directly impacting their current roster decisions, specifically with Jonathan Kuminga. I've read that his contract negotiations are a key part of this whole strategy. What's the latest on that front?
It's an absolute standoff, and it's a perfect example of this long-term thinking versus immediate needs. The Warriors have put a 3-year, $75.2 million deal on the table with a team option for the third year. But Kuminga's camp is pushing for a player option. They believe he's an all-star ceiling, and they want him to have control over his future. They're not just haggling over money. They're haggling over career trajectory. Kuminga's even preparing for a worst-case scenario with loss of value insurance in case he just signs the qualifying offer. He's looking at next summer's market as a way to gain freedom, which is a pretty bold move for a young player.
So it sounds like Kuminga is essentially saying, I'm willing to bet on myself, and I don't want the team to have all of the leverage. It's an interesting contrast to the traditional player-team dynamic, isn't it?
It really is. Most guys want the security of a long-term deal, but Kuminga and his agent, they're seeing the big picture. They see how much he's grown, especially when Stephen Curry was sidelined last season and he had those flashes of brilliance in the playoffs. They know his value is only going to go up. And from a pure fan perspective, it's a bit of a heartbreaker. You want to see a guy like that stick around and develop with the team that drafted him. But you can't fault him for wanting control. It's his career after all. And it's not just Kuminga. You've got Malik Monk's new contract, which also runs through 2027-28, and that's creating a similar issue. The Warriors are just so hesitant to take on any long-term money that would cut into that clean cap sheet.
So let's talk about why they're so obsessed with this 2027 window. My research shows that it's all about who might be available. This is where the plot thickens. We've heard whispers, but now it's out there. The Warriors are monitoring two of the biggest names in the NBA, both of whom have player options for the 2027-28 season. Who are we talking about here, Terrell?
This is where the whole thing comes together, Dan. This is the end game they're playing for. They're watching the situations in Milwaukee and Denver very closely because the two names we're talking about are none other than a couple of MVPs, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Nikola Jokic.
Wow, Giannis and Jokic. That's a game changer. Just saying their names in the context of the Warriors, it creates a whole new level of intrigue. What's the thinking behind this?
It's simple, really. The Warriors are looking at the possibility of pairing one of these generational talents with Steph Curry. Can you imagine that? Curry and a guy like Giannis who can handle the ball, drive to the rim, and be a defensive anchor. Or Curry and Jokic, a pass-first center who can reimagine the Warriors' offense. It would be one of the most formidable duos in NBA history, no question. The whole league would have to reevaluate their strategies. The potential for a new dynasty is absolutely there.
And my paper notes that this interest isn't just speculative. These two players have real reasons to consider their options. Giannis has talked about wanting a more competitive environment, and Jokic's situation with the Nuggets could lead to a change. This isn't just a pipe dream for Golden State, is it?
No, it's not. The Warriors know that this kind of opportunity doesn't come around often, and they're not the only ones. We've seen other high-profile teams like the Lakers and Clippers also making moves to maintain cap flexibility for that same summer. It's a full-on star hunt, and the Warriors are positioning themselves to be at the front of the line. But, and this is a big but, this also means they might have to make some painful decisions. Integrating a star of that caliber would mean roster adjustments, probably trading away some key pieces to make it all work. It's a delicate balance between building for the future and still competing with their current core.
Speaking of that core and the current state of things, let's talk about a recent comment that's been making waves. It's a quote from Tim McMahon, who said that Steve Kerr doesn't want Jonathan Kuminga on the team. It's a pretty strong statement, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a bombshell right there. I mean, we've heard whispers and seen the on-court struggles with Kuminga's role, but to have a report straight up say that Kerr doesn't want him is wild. As a fan, it's frustrating. You watch Kuminga and see all the raw talent, the athleticism, the potential to be a two-way force. You see him shine when given the chance, and then you hear that the coach isn't all in on him. It just creates this sense of unease and a lack of belief. It feels like a real disconnect between the front office's view of him as an asset and Kerr's view of him as a player who doesn't fit his system perfectly. And honestly, it makes me think Kuminga's camp is justified in wanting more control. If the head coach doesn't seem to want you there, why would you sign away your future? It puts a lot of pressure on the team to either make a move or for Kerr to change his tune. It's a messy situation, and that comment from McMahon just threw gasoline on the fire. It's the kind of thing that makes you wonder how long this can really go on without a resolution.
That's his most recent comment on the whole thing, and it feels like the final nail in the coffin for their relationship.
It certainly does. It's a fascinating look into the inner workings of an organization that's trying to manage its present while simultaneously building for a potential completely new future. It's a testament to the long-term vision they have.
Absolutely. It's a high-stakes poker game, and the Warriors are all in on the 2027 hand. Well,
Welcome back. In the first half, we talked about the Warriors' master plan for 2027 free agency, and we threw out some big names, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Nikola Jokic. Now, let's get into the fun stuff. Let's imagine for a second that the Warriors pull this off. What do these superstar pairings actually look like on the court? Terrell, let's start with the one that gets everyone salivating, a Steph Curry and Nikola Jokic duo.
Oh man, you're going right for the heart of it. Curry and Jokic, you're talking about the ultimate offensive cheat code. You have the greatest off-ball player and shooter in history, and you pair him with maybe the greatest passing big man the game has ever seen.
It's one of the most formidable offensive duo imaginable. What makes their skill sets so complementary?
It's all about the synergy. Think about the pick and roll with those two. The defender has to make a choice, and it's an impossible one. Do you stick with Curry to prevent the three-pointer, which we all know he can hit from anywhere, or do you drop back to stop Jokic's roll to the basket? Either way, it's an easy scoring opportunity. And what makes it even crazier is Jokic's ability to operate as the hub. He can be at the top of the key or in the post, and with Curry's constant off-ball movement, defenses would be forced to chase him, leaving wide open lanes for Jokic to either score or, more likely, hit an open cutter. Their offensive gravity alone would create an unprecedented amount of space for everyone else on the floor. It would be a nightmare for opposing coaches.
So it sounds like an offensive juggernaut, but are there any potential weak spots? The defense is my primary concern.
Exactly. Offensively, they're perfect. Defensively, it's a different story. Jokic is a solid post defender, and he's gotten better with his hands and positioning, but he's not an elite rim protector. He's also not the fastest guy on the perimeter. So a team with a lot of athletic wings and a dynamic offense could try to exploit that. But honestly, with the sheer amount of points they would put up, you could probably outscore any opponent. It's a classic case of your offense being so good, it's a form of defense.
All right, so that's the offensive dream team. Now let's pivot to the other option, the Stephen Curry and Giannis Antetokounmpo pairing. What does that duo look like?
Now, this is a different kind of monster. You're pairing the greatest shooter with one of the most dominant and physically imposing interior forces in the league. The pick and roll would be just as devastating, but for different reasons.
How so?
Instead of Jokic's finesse and passing, you get Giannis's raw power and relentless drives. The threat of Curry's shooting would pull defenders to the perimeter, and that would open up a massive lane for Giannis to attack the rim. My research noted that he's a great lob threat which would pair perfectly with Curry's passing. This isn't a pick and pop duo. This is a pick and roll that ends in a dunk or a wide open three for Curry.
And what about the defensive side of the ball for this duo? It seems that this is where they might have an advantage over the Curry-Jokic pairing.
Definitely. This is the biggest difference between the two scenarios. Giannis is a two-time Defensive Player of the Year. He's a versatile defender who can guard multiple positions, and his ability to protect the rim and switch on to smaller guards would be a huge asset. His defensive prowess would help compensate for Curry's defensive deficiencies, and you'd have this incredible push and pull on the court. Curry's gravity pulling defenders to the perimeter, and Giannis's gravity pulling them into the paint. It would be an absolute nightmare to game plan against.
So we have two incredible possibilities, the Curry-Jokic offensive juggernaut and the Stephen Curry-Giannis two-way force. My research concludes that most analysts and fans lean towards the Curry-Jokic pairing as the more devastating duo. Do you agree with that?
You know, I do. As a fan, the idea of Curry and Jokic just unlocks a level of offensive genius the league has never seen. Their games are just perfectly complementary. Curry's off-ball movement and elite shooting are the perfect match for Jokic's incredible passing and playmaking. While Giannis would give you more defensive versatility and be a terrifying presence, the sheer offensive efficiency of Curry and Jokic would likely be too much for any team to handle. It's a hypothetical for now, but man, if the Warriors pull this off, the rest of the league is in for a world of hurt.